Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Steven Schrembeck. He's a software engineer, AI developer, and storyteller. And he likes to talk about the use of technology and instead of being used by it. Welcome to the show, Steven.
That is the name of the game, and it's not as easy as it sounds. Although it's a great tagline, as I think most people increasingly feel, it's very, very hard to do what you actually intended to do on your devices. It seems like there's a lot of forces pulling you in a lot of directions.
Right, right, Stephen. So the thing is that today's whatever one thinks about technology, the thing is that we cannot turn the clock back, and technology is all around us. And sometimes people say that we are too much into technology, and with the coming of the AI, things have taken a very different turn, especially since the last few months. And some people have even gone to the extent of uh, saying that we must try and halt it, at least this development, for at least the next 6 months and see how it goes and then think about it. Even the godfather of the AI, he has recently he quit Google, and then he has also said that bad people can misutilize it. So, in terms of understanding from you, Stephen, that you talk about technology, using it but not being used by it. What do you exactly mean, and to help us understand about what, how what technology we should decide, how can we decide about technology, whether this technology I am using or whether technology is using me. I'm trying to leave this platform to you so that you are able to answer at your own pace several questions at the same time.
Yeah, I'm coming at that in two different ways. One of them is really advice, which is just another way of creating rules for yourself and understanding the risks and understanding how things affect you. The second is much more actionable. Through my company, Impossible Laboratories, I'm building a piece of AI that I'm calling executive assistance software. This is a fancy way of saying AI. In this case, it is some simple AI. There's a vision network and a language model. It just watches all your devices. Now, you install this locally on your own machines. You choose to. And it literally just watches you. It's called intent. And it knows what you're doing, and it creates a data-rich stream of you're shopping for a new camera, checking your bank account, you're uploading pictures from a soccer game or a football game. And using that data, on top of it, there's a large language model that acts like an oracle, but it also takes some basic inputs. Hey, here's what I want to do today. Here are my goals. Here's what I don't want to do. Here are the things I'm trying to avoid. And it will just chime in with a little chat bot. Hey, looks like you're not doing what you said you wanted to do. Looks like you're on Facebook. And you have the opportunity to sort of argue with it and say, well, actually, I'm on here for business. I have to change these profiles. I have to make my posts per day. But it can tell the difference between business and personal. And that is the beauty of these large language models, is that they're kind of like commoditized intelligence. If an average person can do it with relative ease, this is the kind of thing that they're exceptionally good at. That sort of logic. So being able to look at a screen, see what's on it, and know the difference between business and pleasure on a social media network is something they can handle. So this is just a way of enforcing your own nuanced rules. And, well, it's your thing, so you can have it do whatever you want from there. So it can minimize the window, or it can do any of the things that rescue time, or these other apps that turn off your internet, all that stuff. Like, you can tell it what to do. It's your tool. But I called it executive function assistance because our executive control system is constantly being hijacked. This is our ability to make decisions. And you can sort of outsource your decision making when you're feeling calm and rational and you want to set some rules for yourself. And now the computer can understand what you were trying to accomplish with your time and help not just keep you on task, but guide you along and hopefully prevent you from doing whatever destructive behaviors you're trying to avoid on your devices, which is, there's always temptations for people. So that's the more actionable actionable side. The less actionable side, but that requires, I guess, a little more effort, is I try to inform people about my rules for life. Um, but I think this gets you like halfway there. The other half, you got to engage with these things. Like there's nothing you can do. You have to use the internet to talk to people. This is where the world is, whether you like it or not. And hiding from them or trying to stop the progress of these tools is just going to get you left behind in the dust.
Right, right, Steven. So when we talk about, we using technology and not letting the technology use us,
It's not too easy.
actually, who, what is that technology which is using us? Is it the technology itself, or is it some people, or just a few people who have devised such technology? They have their own ways of making you think the way they want to, or they want their technology to think, so that it leads to uh, whatever, more money in their hands, or more control over their lives, more control about everything that you exist for as a human being. How do you look at that? Then, should we blame technology, or should we blame the few people? It is like, the earlier, earlier days in economics, they used to say the factors of production. So, land, labor, capital, organization, and then came in technology. So those who control the factors of production, they were always the rich people, the landlords, the one who's to rule. Is it
Yes.
that because technology, these have become much, much bigger than the earlier ways the factors of production were controlled by? How do you look at that? And how do you move out this technology from such hands and make it more democratized, so that actually you use technology and not the other way around? How do you look at this?
So I'd be careful to conflate whether democratizing technology actually makes it better or not. The crowd can be a very fickle beast, and you may not like so much when you find out how they behave. In fact, we see that a lot of times already. When you get humans in a big network, we don't necessarily behave how you think we will. There's a lot of incentives at play there, so that has to be designed well. But I will grant, on average, a well-designed democratic system does sound better. So here's how I think about it. I think simply blaming the people above you one layer away is like a first order consequence. It's a little short sighted, even if it is somewhat correct. And, let's just even say that some of those people are bad people. The people who are inflicting technology upon you, whether that's AI that is spying on you, or whether it's Facebook manipulating ads in order to make you angry, or TikTok in order to keep you on a platform longer. All of these things are very bad outcomes. Whether they want you to buy junk or prescription medications you don't need, right? Those are all the bad outcomes. But if you just follow that back like a chain reaction, you will see that none of those people really had a choice in what they did. Yes, there were people who filled those gaps, and maybe they're a little more sociopathic than average, but they're all just incentivized to do it. And if you follow it all the way back, it really comes down to, it seems like a capitalist economy has limits. Profit motive is an incredible tool, and it has gotten us really far. But it seems like we need to start incorporating some other values alongside profit motive, and that's a very challenging thing to change. And one of them is, hey, maybe we shouldn't destroy ourselves in order to make some money. It seems a little self-defeating, but because that's hard to change, and because people want to improve their lives, right? It's kind of hard to change all of society at once. So I just take it a couple steps back. One, like we talked about with executive control assistant software. Now you can use rescue time or anything simple like that. You can use the parental controls on your own devices, screen time, in order to help try to curb yourself. You can make rules for your life. This is the first and easiest place to start because it's simple. Even though it's hard to change your own behavior, you can control yourself. One layer away from that, you change your tools to remove your influences. So just limit the amount of exposure you have to terrible things. One step away. By the way, AI has a role to play in all of this. So the people who want to roll back the clock, say, like you said, it's not possible. It's just going to be done unevenly if you do that, which is a terrible idea. The good actors will listen and the bad actors won't. Like, don't do that. AI is fantastic for all of this. So what you do on your devices, it can help you control that. One layer above that, you can control the influences. So this is stuff like literally filtering out your news feed, stripping known bias and known misinformation and disinformation, curating the good stuff, throwing away the bad stuff, even if it's not perfect, even if it just throws away, this is obviously spam. This is obviously fake. That's fantastic. There are other things you can do at this layer. This is stuff like provenance. This is the ability to prove who did what, usually just through verifiable attestations. So this is zero knowledge proofs and other cryptographic purposes. You can just hash stuff and throw it somewhere. This is just a fancy way of saying, I made this. You don't care about these words right now, most people. You're going to care a lot about these words in about 6 months. Because generative networks are going to start polluting the entire internet with noise to the point where it's difficult to tell who is human and who has actually said something and actually done something, because the incentives show that it makes sense to just spam networks because you can get paid for that. And we're going to need mechanisms to not only verify who is human, but who has actually done things they said they did. And we're going to need that real soon. So you can go farther back from that, but these are the layers that we can easily control in our own lives.
Right, right. Now, one thing, I'm trying to understand from all this is that I see in my feed, whether it's YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, hundreds of videos and young people telling that you listen, you don't have to do anything, you can create content. You don't even have to come in front of camera, you don't even have to give your own voice, you don't have to write script, you don't just use either chat gpt or any of these hundreds of tools that have come up, and then it will lead to a lot of money for you, or at least it will be enough for you. So in a way, to a lot of people, it gives a sense that listen, you don't need to go out for work, or the side hustle itself will be so big, and it can be done easily. So making money is very easy, and almost giving an impression that those who are working hard, they are actually foolish in their outlook at not being able to use this thing. Or is it that this is another way of pushing that listen, you get some benefit for some time, and afterwards your mind will be so much filled with these things that you will not be of any use in the real general life that we are trying to, because at the same time we are trying to say listen, technology will free you, and then you will be able to create human connections and live the life that you want. I really want to understand what part is true. How do you look at it from a technology perspective as a technology person yourself?
Think of technology as neutral. Technology is leverage on human behavior. That's it. Once you abstract away all of what it does, that's what it is. Like, think about what humans want to do in aggregate. Think about what individual humans want to do. Okay, now multiply it by a large factor. That is what technology is, and just keep increasing increasing that number over time. You get a geometric equation, more or less, even if it's not, even if it's just linear and increasing. So what you get is what humans want, and that's not always good because humans are animals of a fashion, and we have animal instincts, and we are trying to overcome that. Right? This is not to be mean to animals or to us. We are not. We are trying to overcome our base urges. Like, this is the struggle of all eternity, right? Is that we're trying to appeal to our higher nature rather than our lower nature. This is a constant struggle. There's a lot of strategies here, depending on your perspective in life. It is an amplifier. So it's going to keep amplifying unless we are thoughtful about how we design it so that it is difficult to amplify our sort of base urges, our cruel instincts, and it is easy to amplify our better nature. So the answer is we need to design it better. In terms of making money, yes, okay, there is a gold rush. Chances are by the time you've heard of a gold rush, it's already gone. And what they're actually doing is yeah, they're mining out all the gold and leaving behind a bunch of trash. So this is the noise on the internet. Like, think about where money comes from. Money comes from getting it from another person or entity who believes that you have given them some value. How long is that true as these abilities proliferate to everybody else? When every 14-year-old can do it, it's probably not very valuable. And what is actually valuable is the critical wisdom and experience you have developed, your ability to use skills and wisdom you have developed in the real world to affect some change that helps a person or that they believe is some value to them. That is where money comes from. So insofar as you can find a way to do that with AI, great. But you should also recognize that chances are that that is going to dwindle down to zero very rapidly if it's easy. So my approach is take what you're good at and never forget that being valuable in the real world is exceptionally difficult to replace. So that is the strategy I would advise, is be useful. Like, be good if you can. I can't prescribe that, but be useful. Ask yourself, is this useful? I'm building this tiny little thing that makes a crappy YouTube video in 2 minutes, and I can just spam the internet with them. Is that useful? If no, then probably it's not going to be worth money. But there are short-term things you can do, and I would not begrudge people who want short-term cash in order to make a difference in their lives, but you have to take a longer view because it's going to be gone, and this is not going to last, and it's coming at the cost of, much like smog or pollution in our cities, it's coming at the cost of a lot of noise and pain.
Right, right. So, Steven, you are a software engineer, AI developer, also a storyteller. So, as a storyteller and a tech person, how do you look at this tech story going on? Is it the way you, as a storyteller, would have wanted it to go, or is it not that way? How differently would you want to write if you were to write a story about technology and humankind looking into the future? Help us understand your perspective on this.
Well, I try to write a couple stories about this, and the reason I do is, like I said earlier, humans are not all logic. There's a big emotional storytelling center portion of our brain, and we connect with how we feel much more than we connect with our logic. Logic is something that works. We can use it against the rest of our brain, but it's not intuitive. It's sort of clumsy. But we instantly understand an emotional connection to something, and story sort of gets in at that layer. So that's why it's useful. So I wrote a story called Reverie that I think answers this question about where I think we should go, because I thought that humanity sort of lacked a positive future story. There's a few out there, but for the most part, they're all dystopian. It's like, none of you can imagine a good outcome anymore. So this was a mixed good outcome. It was realistic. And I tried to paint a picture like, hey, we have increasing abilities. Here's where I think we should go with this. Here's what I think we should do with this. And I spent a lot of other time describing what I think we should do on a nearer term timeline as well, which for some reason I don't see a lot of people doing that. A lot of people tend to just sort of complain or look at the problems and say, oh, wow, yeah, that's scary. And then they offer no solutions. I like to try to offer solutions, not because I think I'm right, but because I want to get the conversation started. And hopefully somebody else can make those ideas better or come up with new ones and start to implement them. So I really use story to inspire people to action, and to finally sit down and imagine a realistic, plausible, positive future vision that we could actually affect. So for some reason, humans, we keep forgetting that we can actually do things, and the specific futures happen because things happened in the world that we can do. Like, we have agency, I guess, is a fancy way of saying that. We have the ability to change things and change outcomes. Let's start using that. So I use story to convince people, well, here's a few ways I think we could do that, in the hopes that it inspires them to do something.
Right, right. And you seek minima. What is this minima all about? Can you help us understand this?
Sure, yeah. Sort of a nerdy take. So in machine learning or any, I guess, function approximation or mathematics, minima are like low points on a curve. So you may have heard of local minima or global minima in calculus, but this is essentially the low point of a curve. So if you can imagine a wavy landscape, a minima might be the lowest point between two hills. And in machine learning, this is representative of stochastic gradient descent, the ability for machine learning models to learn from the stuff they're being taught. So a minima represents the best you can be given the information you have right now. And I named the channel and all the things I try to teach after that because it represents, like machine learning, we're always moving towards the next best thing we can find. It's about the struggle to improve ourselves to a point. And the reason I didn't call it seeking local minima is because the most profound thing a human can do is when they're stuck at a local minima. This is the best I can get. This is called being stuck in a dead-end job. This is called life is pretty good. Like I figured some things out, but I feel like I haven't gone anywhere in a long time. And things are just good enough. The water is lukewarm. You don't want to get out because you're going to get cold. You don't want to stay in because it's not as enjoyable anymore. The most profound thing a human being can do is when they're not forced to, they can choose to opt into struggle. They can climb back up the next hill, even though it's worse. Life is actually worse. You can choose to take a second job. You can choose to learn extra skills. You can choose to learn technological skills or meet people. You can opt into a harder, worse life temporarily in the hopes that over that next hill is another lower minima. And the nice part about the global minima is that they almost never exist in the sense that there's always a lower local minima for most problems. So in your life, this is a fancy way of saying, please keep struggling because you never know what's over the next hill, and it could be worth all the struggle and significantly better for you and all the people around you. So that's what it's for.
Right. There is so much to understand and get insights from you, Steven, and not just me. It was just one episode. Even I would like to, have talks with you on different topics, but also for a lot of people who want to understand more about technology, about the stories that you tell. How can they be in connect with you so that they can know more about you and about the things that you talk about, write about?
Well, I'd love to have another conversation. Conversations is what this is all about. I have absolutely nothing to sell. I have very little selfish incentive here, other than, I guess, the desire to help people, which is a selfish urge, whether people see it that way or not. It's so you can find all the stuff I have to say at Seeking Minima on YouTube and Twitter. But don't go there if you don't want to. It's fine. I'll find a way to have a website at some point. But yeah, keep listening to this show and others because knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is accumulated and stored power. Otherwise, it just drifts away and has no purpose if you don't use it. So practical advice like this is how you move ahead in life and get to the next minimum. So if you like that kind of stuff, that's what I keep talking about.
Wonderful. And as long as humans keep talking with themselves, within themselves, till then we have a lot of hope. We have a lot of empathy alive in each one of us. The day computers talk and we don't, that's the time to actually worry. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, AJ.